I'm doing this video of the red dot versus the LPVO with the assumption that you've seen Knickerbocker Part 1 and that you're somewhat familiar with the channel. This is all run and guns. If you are not familiar with the channel or have not seen Knickerbocker Part 1, please go back and watch that. I'll put the link in the description below. For this whole video, the scope was a primary arms 1:8 PLX-c with a mill-based reticle, and the red dot is a Sig Romeo 4XT. So I have drop compensator built in, as well as a Juliet 4, so a 4X magnifier. There's two notable differences between the 2 days. First is the first day I didn't know the distances. I had to figure them out with my scope, and on the second day I knew what the holds would need to be. In addition, the first day was a little bit more windy, so the challenge of the first day was definitely different. For this first stage that you're looking at, I did not try to sync them up. I actually took about the exact same amount of time between both the first and the second day. The difference is on the first day that I decided to put my hand right over the ejection port and jam up my gun with the LPVO. So had I had that extra 14 seconds, I would have been faster on a windier day and on a day where I didn't already know the distances. That being said, I need to practice using less zoom with the LPVO. The 4X was almost perfect for this whole course, even going out to 600 yards. I had no problem hitting 600 yards with either of these setups. I wish that a red dot did have a little bit of a wind hold. I don't know how they would ever do that, but the wind hold is definitely a factor that holds it back. And we'll just jump right into the next one. Like I said, if you want to know what's happening and how we got to here, you need to watch Knickerbocker Part 1. You can see that my movements are smoother. It helped a lot to have run the day before. And upcoming, you're going to see that I use my red dot on both rifles. Now the dot on the LPVO has a much higher offset than the red dot with the magnifier. I didn't use magnifier, didn't use scope. And I found that the offset was really consequential. It ended up promoting me running or shooting a lot of branches as opposed to just hitting the target. I took out a lot of branches on the first day, and that offset I think is consequential enough where I don't really like it, and I might end up dropping it for the future. The red dots, just a straight red dot on your rifle, are definitely king of 80 to 100 yards, and that's what this stage was. And as you're probably familiar, this one has no rifle, so no LPVO, no red dot magnifier, just the red dots on the pistol. This was just the 2 separate days. One of the big things that I really took away from this, though, was the movement is just as consequential as the shooting. So you see I just ended up shooting faster on the first day than I did on the second day, but I moved better on the second day, and I'm right back at the same spot. So again, just emphasizing the aggressiveness of getting to the next target. I know I've said that on a previous video, but the run and guns are much more than just how fast you shoot. It is how fast can you get into your next position to shoot.
There it is. Time 55:44.
Stand by.
I kind of didn't want to show this one because I really didn't like either day's performance, but I promised I'm going to show all the good, the bad, the failures, and the successes in this. So the biggest thing I took away is that the LPVO, I definitely took a lot less shots, while even with the confusion back and forth on the targets not lighting up and if I actually impacted or not. The time was really comparable. The round count was about 7 rounds different. And if you spread that out over a handful of stages, that's really going to make a difference on how much you need to carry throughout the day. So despite it not being that big of a difference time-wise, I definitely still want to give this to the LPVO, simply because of how much less ammo it took. So just a few observations I've had between the two of them. The target acquisition for the red dot is much easier. There's just a wider field of view. Even at 4X on the scope and the 4X magnifier, you simply have a better field of view. And 4X was good enough for this course all day. Now, that's not the case for all of them, and that's where I still end up biasing towards LPVO, because some courses have really small targets, but today was more than adequate with a red dot. The precision with LPVO with that extra magnification helps a lot, especially seeing your misses when you're hitting out, roughly about 500 yards. It's much more difficult to see that with the red dot. And the elevation drops on my red dot are awesome. I feel like that is so helpful reaching out to about 500 yards. And then I'm also thinking about dropping the red dot on the LPVO, especially since the 1X is good and the targets are commonly 150 yards plus for these types of events. So I guess I could get into the degrees of angle and the clarity and the nitpick all sorts of stuff. The long story short is that I'm going to stick with the LPVO, and the reason is because if I'm going to need to shoot things at 100 yards as well as 600 yards, I want that flexibility. I want those options. I think for me personally, I need to train at what magnification I need to be at for different size targets at different distances. But that's more of a skill issue than it is a capability issue. And I think the LPVO brings the most capability in this type of circumstance. If it's a night match, obviously I'm going with my red dot.
Reset. Hit. Hit. Reset. Hit. Reset.